Right then, by popular demand and requests, someone's asked me to do an in-depth rendering tutorial again. So I've done my sketch, as you can see. Started off with there's some wheels on merging down. Started off just blocked it out real rough, get the perspective right, and then I over the top tidied it up, did it nice and neat. Then I literally just put that down to, I don't know, something like 10% or something on opacity. Yeah, so I'm just going to do a quick tutorial on rendering. As usual, it depends on your style, but I'm going to grey in everything that I want to be bodywork, just so when the layers are built up, you don't get gaps in between the different coloured areas. The grey will fill in any white space, and you'll notice that when you come to do it yourselves and when you see this come along, sort of thing. This is actually a sketch I'm doing for my book, because I'm working on my book at the minute. I've taken time out of the actual modelling to do this tutorial, so I thought I might as well do it for the book as well. So this is the exterior sketch of my project, and it's a very conceptual two-seater hypercar, and the seating position is practically lying down. If I do a quick side profile sketch to show you in this top corner, if you hold shift you can draw straight lines in either direction, which is always quite handy. So if I block in the spokes, the side profile is, it's not even like that, it's something like that. And then there's a nice weird unusual detail. I mean, aerodynamically, in reality, it would be an absolute nightmare, but I kind of liked it, so it looked quite cool. So that's the side profile, basically. These being the wings and the vents for the brake cooling and exhaust. The idea is it's an electric hybrid, so it's got battery packs in the front and it will have some in the back as well. Really exaggerated proportions, so it's really quite low, and the seating position is like that, and the ergonomics are really tight on it, like extreme. Like the dashboard is there and the steering's there. Now in reality you'd never be able to get into that actual space, so for this concept, which will be revealed in the book as well, the dashboard is on a frame which raises up, and that is something like that, and it pivots here, so it's going to be like that basically when the doors open. And the doors are probably some kind of gull wing slash scissor door hybrid, sort of blend between the two. And from this belt line or shoulder line, the bottom half is solid and the top half is glazed. Yeah, so it should look quite cool in the anyway, but the book's not going to be out for a couple of months yet, because yeah, I'm really busy. So anyway, I'll leave that there actually, just for reference, just for you guys to. So yeah, when you're actually designing cars on your courses and that kind of uni or where I went or whatever uni you're at, you'll learn all about ergonomics and packaging and stuff like that. So yeah, that's this concept basically. That's this sketch. Right, let's crack into this now. I'm going to give it some kind of ground shadow as well. So I'm not necessarily going to stick to this line here. I'll literally block in quite a lot of it, because it will form the basis of the ground shadow as well. Now, depending on what style you want to do, I'm just going to do it real loose, I think. I quite like all the loose artistic sort of sketches myself. So, and I quite like the build-up of streaks as well. Always adds a nice bit of character to it. Nice, almost gradient effect. So, with that being the base layer, I'm going to leave the sketch underneath for now. So I'm just going to tone it down so it's a nice grey colour. And I'll probably go... Now all this is quite dark on the actual model, so I'll put that in there. Put all the dark bits in. And that's all carbon fibre and whatnot. Now, for the purpose of my style, you probably, if you've watched my previous videos, you'll understand. I always draw over the lines and then just erase to it, just because that's the way I do it. Right, you can see now my brush doesn't brush everything out on the eraser as I've got it currently set up to. So if you hold down B and move up, you'll see the opacity at the bottom of the screen. Now we want to make that 100% to get nice crisp, or to get that kind of soft. You kind of play around with the opacity of the brush. So that's hold down B and up and down for the opacity of the brush. Only works on certain brushes. For the size, hold down B and go left to right. So that's what's new in the new version of Sketchbook, which is quite good. Anyway, let's quickly do this. Now, for all you people out there that are new to this, and this is probably the first one you've watched, for example, if you're studying industrial design, or even art in some cases, depending on how good your teacher is, you should always rotate the page, because as now, it's easy for me to draw an arc that way than it is to draw an arc that way. Although you can do it, it's easier to do it the other way around. So, for this case, I've turned the page upside down to just do that easier. And artists don't tend to, but if you're being taught industrial design, car design, product design, you know, you should always draw with nice clean strokes. Like if I was to do that with doing lots of little strokes, I'm never gonna get a clean line. So you want to do one clean stroke. Now this technique is, you don't plant your wrist on the actual table or this paper or the Wacom, whatever you're using. This same rule applies to traditional drawing with paper, you see. So you want to keep your wrist parallel to the actual table. Keep your pen pretty much in the same places wherever possible. And you want to draw from your shoulder. So I currently have my forearms parallel to the table, and I'm moving my whole arm to draw a stroke. Now, a lot of artists you'll see who have got terrible drawing skills will draw lines like that to try and get I don't know, whatever it is trying to draw, whereas you should be doing one solid stroke. And you want to practice this all the time, because this is quite important. As you can see, the brush strokes on my sketch here are quite long. Even if I zoomed out and draw them like that, they're still quite long. You don't want short, jaggedy lines, because it just looks terrible. So that's something, if you're studying as a student, that's something you want to practice, basically. and it does take a long time to learn and practice. I mean, even myself, I'm still practicing now. I'm by no means amazing at it, but you have to force yourself to do it. Yeah. Right. Someone requested tutorials based on colour and all that kind of stuff, as to the way to go about rendering colours and stuff, and when you're doing a car rendering or whatever, or products, or. And someone else has asked about a bit more detail about lighting, how to light properly, draw your understanding of light and whatnot. So I'm going to try and focus on that as well today. And I'm going to try and do this as quick as possible, actually, because the time's soon racking up. As you can tell, when I do it wrong, Command Z is different. See, that was awkward for me to do that there, so I'll rotate the page around because it just felt awkward and didn't feel right. So that's almost, no, not quite. That's better. It's still not bad, but in a second I'll explain the perspective as well. And if I tone down my sketch, because in a minute it's kind of can't really tell what's going on really between. If I zoom in, there's obviously flat spots, which when you get rid of your sketch later on, you'll end up seeing, which is fine if you want to keep them. But if you don't want to keep them and you want to get rid of the actual sketch, yeah, see, like there's an error there. My bad. Go back in. Yes, bear that in mind when you actually lose the sketch, if you want to lose the sketch at the end of it, or whether you want to keep the sketch because it looks nice. You might have areas where, because you can see the edge of the actual sketch, you can't see where you've erased completely, sort of thing, so you'll end up having like weird spots on your rendering. And that's another thing to bear in mind. Like here, you can see it here. There's the black line's obviously the sketch. Albeit that's quite a straight line, but it's obviously not bang on to that actual sketch sort of thing. So you got that weird part where it's going past the actual. And same here where I've done that. There's a gap there. So if I get really tone that down, you can see more there, which is obviously not good. And there's a bit of gone wrong there. So there, wrong that. So I want to try and get this into one nice sweep. Don't feel right going that way. Turn the page. Kind of losing that there. Redraw, clearly wants more in there. And there. If you're using Photoshop, you could just path it out, which is obviously easier because you just do the path and then just delete right to that path. But yeah, a little bit more involved with Sketchbook. If you're using Painter, it's quite similar. So now there's a bump there as well. Don't want that in there. Then you can see here there's a flat spot almost, and in here is all wonky. It's not too much you want to worry about now anyway, because you're going to do loads more layers on top of this. But just for the purpose of learning, you should be aware of it. Right.
See, I think drugs have done.
Right, I'll just quickly discuss something went wrong with the video record for some reason. This is basically a sketch to explain the higher sun direction or light source and the shaded areas and what's going to be in shadow, what's cast by the sunlight. So I'll actually explain that from scratch. I'll do that again. So my sunlight is going to be in this direction, which is in this sort of direction. So the car is going to cast a shadow onto the ground. Now the surfacing on this car goes down across the bonnet, back up the actual wheel arch, or front wing, or fender if you're American, or whatever. So there's a highlight on the actual bonnet there, which is going to be brilliant white because that surface there is directly facing sunlight. Now this surface is facing away from that, it's actually facing like toward the camera, the perspective that I'm actually drawing it in. So that's not going to be black shadow, it's going to be in shade compared to the opposite surface because sunlight can't bend around the corner. So you'll probably catch a bit of a highlight on here because in reality from the front the actual wing's doing that. Then there's the bonnet, there's a grille, and then there's the crease in the actual bonnet. So this surface here, which is this one, it's going to be bright white because that's directly facing the actual sunlight, but the sunlight can still get to those surfaces, but down here is going to be in shade, which is down here. So there'll be a slight highlight on here, especially to show the actual curvature of the actual surfaces, because these surfaces are quite soft and with just a hard crease over the shoulders. So there'll be more of a gradient from quite dark, depending on your rendering style, right up to quite a grey sort of colour with a white highlight, and then it'll be a brilliant white highlight on this surface. Then it'll be a gradient because that's quite flat and it's in direct sunlight, so that'll be quite light across the bonnet there. And then back here, it's kind of got to be mirroring the same as what's on here. So although it's going to be quite light because it's in direct sunlight, it's going to be, there'll be a transition in the actual colour. Same on the window. This is the side of the actual window. The cross section of this is doing something like and it's quite a soft blend, and it kicks back out to the actual hard crease on the side. So all that is going to be, because that's not in direct sunlight, it's going to be quite dark, but at the same time it's transparent material. So all this will be in like a, not brilliant white, because it's going to be like tinted glass. So it'll be quite grey with the highlights and stuff like that. And I suppose in theory, if you're going to draw the interior, you'll have part of the glass where you can see straight through the car. So that'll be quite light. That'll be almost white, because you're seeing through the windscreen, through the side window, DLL. And then in theory, I'd have all the interior sketched in as well. So the dashboard and steering column and seats and headrests and oh God knows what. But at the minute, where I'm at currently, all the interior is still under development, so I'm not going to bother doing that because it's going to take weeks of sketching to do that anyway. So that's going to explain the front anyway. For the back, this surface is, there's a little step, and then it goes down into the actual rear wing, then it goes up into the wheel arch, and then it goes back down to the actual wheel. And then over, as it gets to here, imagine this as a cross section, that's quite flat, and then it goes back down to the wheel. So there's a transition in the surface from this point down here to about here, where the surface creates highlights when you see it in 3D, like that. And then the rear shoulder is creating highlights like that. So this, being facing away from the sunlight, is going to be not dark, but it's going to be darker than this bit. And then this bit's going to be facing the sunlight, so that's going to be quite a harsh highlight. And then this bit is the same as this bit, so the right side of that crease is going to be the same as this area here. That gives you an idea as to what's going to happen there. Now, this surface here is facing the same as here, so those are going to be the same, and there's going to be a highlight replicating this one here, where it bends away from where you can see it. In reality, through the glass, it goes down and back out. It's not even correct, but the surface goes down, so you can't see it, and then it pops back up. So it's doing this in reality. And same for this side. So that's going to be highlight, but not too bright, because it's in direct sunlight. That's going to be a highlight. That's going to be tonal difference. Same with that one. And this bonnet sits quite proud of this glass here. This glass goes quite far down, whereas the bonnet starts here, in reality vertical down. So the sunlight will go past this edge and hit the glass around here somewhere. So all that is shaded where the sun can't reach it. Probably more like that. And then the sunlight can get to it down here. So that shadow will just disappear underneath the actual bodywork. And then that will give you the impression that the glass is underneath the bodywork. And a similar sort of thing happens at the back. It disappears underneath that back into there, into like a little black hole. So that's going to explain how I'm going to render this out basically. There'll be a shadow cast on the floor, which is going to be down here, because the car covers where the direct sunlight will get to, sort of thing. Yeah, so that is a quick brief explanation on lighting. Get rid of that, don't need that now. So now I'm just going to start to block it all in. Right, let's just get on with it really. Alright, okay. I don't worry too much if it's gone over the black area, because by the time you've built up all your highlights and stuff on top of all this, you're not going to see that. So I won't worry too much about being over the top here, because there's going to be all sorts of layers on top. Just as long as it doesn't go on the bodywork. Which basically just what I'm doing now, just removing it off the bodywork. Because it's more ground shadows and just general shadows really. Went too far. Right, so that's blocked in, just define this little area out. I'm going to exaggerate the shape on the actual shadow of the actual body, just to emphasise that when you're looking at it, you read it as quite a lot of mass is missing there, which there actually is quite a lot of mass missing compared to a conventional car. So you just read that there's a big chunk of the car like not there, sort of thing, and it shows how the car actually, because there's a lot of this mass is all missing, so it shows in cross section that when you're reading it, you've got the side of the window, got the shoulder of the car, and on the actual model it kind of disappears like that, and you've got your wheels quite far out with this kind of graphic sort of thing. So it just emphasises the distance that goes in to before you even read that and then that. So that's why I just kind of emphasise that shadow basically. It's exaggerated. Get rid of that. Right, so I'm just going to soften up the back one as well. It's a little too harsh. Now, when rendering this actual particular sketch, I want this area to be the main focus of the sketch. Now, kind of like the way I explain it is like focusing on a camera, on a photograph, or being in and out of focus, depth of field, as it's known. I want all this to be kind of out of focus, but not really fuzzy or grainy. So when I'm rendering it, I'm going to do as much of it here is quite clear, and I'm just going to kind of hint that you can see that there's a body there, sort of thing. So a lot of this will be quite whitened out, and maybe even down here, just so that when you're reading the sketch and you're looking at it, this is your focal point. This is what you're drawn to. That's what your eye wants to see first, and then you'll read the car later on as a whole. And it'll give, well, the intention is to give a lot of depth to the actual sketch, so it doesn't look quite so flat. So the colouring from down here will be slightly different down here. It'll fade out towards away from the centre of the focal point. That's the intention anyway. Quite a hard thing to do, but that's my intention, so that's what I'll start to do. Now, the way I've always done it and the way I've always been taught is to build up the shadows and work your way forward sort of into the highlights. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start putting in some shadows, some gradients, and I'm going to start by doing them as I explained earlier, or down here. Do all that first, then do a soft bit on the bonnet, and then we'll see how it goes. Really, just kind of go with it. No, I'm not going to worry about the wheels because the wheels are going to be black tyre, black inside, and then it'll just be white spokes. So I'm going to leave that shadow in there. I'm not going to worry about erasing that. And what I'm going to do now is grab a soft eraser, and I'm just going to get rid of it gradually. I'm doing it really lightly now, not hardly any pressure, to kind of get a gradient. So that's kind of the start of it. It's getting there. But if I do that, it doesn't look that great. It looks a bit crap. So I'll tone it down so it reads more as a soft gradient. And I'm going to do it again basically. But this time I'm going to use an airbrush. So I'm going to do it quite large so you get a larger spread. And just softly build it up. And I'm only going to do a little bit on here. I'm not going to worry too much about the back one because I want the front of the car to be the main focus of the image. Again, get the razor, same process. Raise. Get rid of that. Just going to soften that up there. Now this is what I tend to do quite a lot for my highlights in my day-to-day job and my personal work, is by doing a harsh line and then from that harsh line using a soft eraser covering it and just erase from it. So you'll still see that harsh line, but it gradually fade, and then you get kind of gives you like an effect of a HDRI rendering sort of thing, and you'll see it more in the highlights. Yeah, I think that's about right. Nice and dark down here, getting quite grey like up here, and it's like now if I put in white now. I think that's quite large area actually, quite soft. So this is going to give And as soon as I remove this, you'll see what I mean. I want it to be bright, but not too bright. So you can see what's happening now. And then the next layer on top of that, I generally build highlights out of 2-3 layers. So now this one's going to be more focused on that actual surface that we explained earlier. But again, you see it's building up now. Again, gone off the line there. Let's put it on. Now I'm going to do a harsh line, which is what I just did with that actual the wheel, unintentionally, but nice harsh line coming to almost a point. And then what I'm going to do, get a soft eraser and just erase next to that line, and you'll see that it'll still be there, but it'll just fade out. It's knowing when to stop, sort of, is the issue. So it's still obviously not white. Like if I was to pick that colour now, it's not white. It's almost white, but it's not actually white because I've got it quite faded out. So now I'm going to do a new layer. So this is the third layer in the white bit, and I'm going to do it quite small now, and opacity is going to be 1. And I'll make that quite harsh now. So again, I'm going to just do, might even just leave that almost harsh line. Scale that up. If you hold V, you can scale your layers. You can rotate them and move them and stuff like that if you hold V down. So now I might soften these edges. Yeah, seems about right. Now I'm going to go back under the white layers, so I'm going to do black again. So this is underneath those 3 layers I've done on white. I've done a new layer, and I did some really lightly stroked airbrush, so it gives you more contrast because that doesn't really stand out enough for me. And then again, I'm going to just erase that line. Now I'm purposely going in of the edge of the actual sketch, so it shows there's a lip, there's a front, there's an edge to the material, there's a thickness to it, i.e. the end of the car. And actually on my model it's actually got a flat surface transition sort of thing. It's like almost a chamfered nose. So now you can start to see that taking shape now. Then which one is the bottom one? So that bottom one now, I want, if I tone down that one, I'm going to soft erase it, soften that up a bit. the second layer, this one here, it's a bit too harsh still. So I just want to soften that up. Soften the edges of the top layer. Just so there's a gradient change now, there's a transition from here. And this is where the real surface changes. So I put very subtle softening on the actual highlight there. Same, I want this to disappear a bit. There we go, that's better. Now where's that come from? So there's a random piece of dirt there. Don't want that in there, get rid of that. There's a weird spot there. Okay, looks alright. Next, I'm going to get white. And just kind of gradient that. Okay, so we're getting a nice bit of detail now. Nice and soft. You get the surface transitions. Now what I want to do now is I'm going to put another highlight on the actual opposite side. Now this is kind of, if you've all used HDR rendering programs like Bunk Speed, Keyshot or Showcase, you'll know from using HDRIs what effect they have on the surface of a car or a product that you're rendering that's reflective. And what they tend to do on a surface, when you look at the reflections of a surface, they'll just obviously bend around whatever the actual surface is doing. So in this case, say even if it's a square or a circle hot spot in the actual HDRI dome, it'll come out as a weird shape because it's bending over the actual surface that's curved. So kind of gives you the effect of reflection. And I've got to just erase it really softly out, and this will obviously be built up, but now it kind of gives you the idea that there's something being reflected by the bodywork of the car, which is that's the aim really. So with very few layers used, like 23 layers, but that includes quite a lot of deleted actually, so it'll jump from 17 to 21, yeah, so not very many layers, and we've created that effect already. Got to tone that down a little bit. It's a little bit too bright in comparison to that side. And then we'll just do it again with an airbrush. But I'm going to do the airbrush quite small so it doesn't compass this line really. And then erase the crease of the bodywork. Erase the wheel arch. So it kind of gives it nice ambient sort of lighting. And then keep it quite bright. But then in reality it's not going to be bright. And for the purpose of this, I've done it this way to explain light and how light is affected by the shadows, but in reality what I would have done is highlight on this side because this is closest to your eye, the way you're looking. So that's the first surface you should read, and then that's the second surface, and that's third, and then fourth. If I go invert, where's invert? If I invert that layer, so it goes from white to black, I'm going to do the same on the layer below. Invert that one. And then I'm going to tone that down so it's more of a grey. I should bring that one up for contrast. There we go out for now, purely because of the contrast between the two. So what I'm going to do now, to copy this surface, I'm going to do the same on this one here. But I'm just going to do it really well. It's just going to suggest that it's just there's a surface change and transitions, so I want it to be really subtle, really. I'll do it quite harsh on the actual end of the body. Nice soft round to that. Again, it's not going to be totally dark, so I'll leave it like that, and then I'll do like a hot spot in it almost. So you can see there's some kind of 3D shape to it. That's quite interesting, actually. And the shadow from the bonnet onto the actual windscreen, I want to soften that up as well. same process. I'm going to build that up. So over 2 or 3 layers. So there's kind of a fall off on the actual shadow. What's that come from? Right. Natural shadow as well. I'll soften the actual original shadow as well, just because it's a little harsh. But I'm only going to do on the one side. Back up here and turn these right down. Get rid of that one. Put some shadow on the back wing. Do that quite a harsh one. So you want to play around with the harsh lines as well, because they give the impressions of reflections and floor reflections and stuff like that. And there's not a lot of contrast here, so I'm going to really darken down here up just because I'm not really happy with the contrast between these surfaces. So I'll just really blacken that out. I'm going to fuzz out that edge as well. And fuzz out the inside of there again. I'll put a harsh line in there. Something like bend as well. Got a bit of salt bend in there. So with that, actually, I'm going to just remove all that wheel. And then I'm just going to soft raise. And then I'm going to actually get rid of. It's not that one. That one. Get rid of that one. And that one. Do those again. I think I will do them in white. Yeah, something softer like that. Put a harsh line in there. Harsh line in there. Again, I've got to just fade that out. So it's starting to look like a reflective surface. Like there's something going on there. Might even pump that up a bit. Just want to give the impression something really bright is shining on that surface. But at the same time, where's that white? This one needs to be pumped up more. Yeah, we'll go with that for now. And then really subtly over the back wheel. Small brush required. Because this is a soft blend here, there's no harsh highlighter or anything on here because this is a softly blended surface. So I'm just going to use a soft eraser and just remove all what I don't want. You can get that kind of triangle sort of tonal difference. Really get that surface in there. And again, that's going to be really toned down. And then it's going to be smaller again in here. And it's going to be quite harsh to the edge. Because there's an edge there, so that's the reasoning behind that. There's an edge to the bodywork. Then again, there's going to be softening of that. Not happy with that. Do that again. Why are you not selecting? Turn it down. What I'm doing now is the edges of the material, i.e. the bodywork, the corners, the rads, wherever the light is going to hit them, it's just going to put a white highlight. Along the edges, and that helps just to define all the edges as well. And it can also be used to tidy up the finished rendering as well. And there's going to be a highlight on here, it's just going to fade in. And I'm going to do the same on the front end. And put this shoulder line in as well. And on this one, I want fade out down here a bit. Fade that one out. Fade that out where it disappears behind the glass. And just put a bit of a fade out in there, so it's bending around and whatnot. This one, fade this edge out. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put like a really harsh point. Just like a bit of specular. Just in that word. This is just the grill area, which is below. The tension's going to be carbon fibre, so it's going to be glossy, it's going to be black, it's going to be shiny. So it's going to be black, but it's going to be, because it's glossy, reflections are going to be the colour of whatever's are in the environment, i.e. in this case white. And then by doing this hole, I've done a really harsh line there. And then I'm just going to do a harsh line into that gradient. And you zoom out and get a soft eraser again and just soften that up a bit. It just gives the impression it's reflecting something in the scene. Now in the actual model and the design, I've got my headlights recessed quite deep into here, and in reality my headlights are about here, recessed quite far in, so you're not really going to see them on this rendering. But for the purpose of doing the rendering and for the purpose of getting some colour on here, I'm going to do effectively the glow from the light. I'm going to use an icy sort of bluey sort of colour, almost turquoisey, no, icy blue. So on a new layer, it's just basically, I'm going to build it up. Like I'm going to do a soft stroke, then I'm going to do quite a harsh stroke, and I'm going to build it up. Just because that's the kind of, I quite like it, that sort of style. And then I'm going to erase to the white line. And it gives the impression there's a light glow coming off there. I'm going to tone it down a bit. Now I'm going to build this up in layers. And I'm going to do a new layer. The airbrush again. Quite a large spread. So it's spread down into this split down there as well. Again, it's going to get an eraser. Going too far with the eraser. That one back up a bit. I'm going to duplicate that, and then I'm going to change that layer to whatever looks cool. What's, if I hide that, what is that? Stick to that or something. I'm going to add white to that on top of that, just like the hot spot of the light. Yeah, happy with that. Right, that's the light sorted out. And I'll chuck in a cheeky indicator as well. And they're going to be on a new layer. Let's chuck that in down there. Just couldn't really do that quite rough, really. Just going to fade out those ends. Again, just going to grab an airbrush and then just do a stroke around that. And then what I'm going to do is just put that into, that's going to add, and that looks pretty cool. Start to bring some colour in. I'm going to leave it on screen actually, screen's more of a natural sort of look to it. And I'm going to put in a bar in the grill, which is quite harsh. White, some beam. And then underneath that, I'm going to do a really harsh black shadow, just purely for contrast. Right, let's get onto the window. Nice big gradient. We've got a harsh centre line on that. Okay, I'm just going to erase the bodywork. get a soft airbrush. And gradually erase that out. Turn that up. Okay, so I want that to turn that down a bit. Next, do another layer. It's quite harsh black. It's going to be something like that. Just to emphasise the height of the glass and the change in the actual height to that angle. And not that it's actually an angle there, it's just so you read the difference between the windscreen and the roof. Again, I don't really care for going over the actual underside of the body because it's so dark down there, you're not going to read that anyway. I'm just going to soften that out. Bring that up a bit. And do another one. I'm just going to So it's just building up some kind of surface change. Now I want to put just running on a bit what to do next. kind of you can see you've kind of lost that blackness here for all the gradients and stuff on top. So I'm just going to redo that and really emphasise a bit of white. Emphasise that there is a part there, there's a split. You start to see it building up now, so it's looking quite nice. Now I want to get white, bright white. No, that's not even white, it's cream. I'm going to put in that area where you can see through the glass first. Not that I'm going to do the full interior because it's unresolved. So that's just enough to suggest that that's a transparent sort of surface going on in there. Just fade out the ends. Then again, keep building this up in layers. And I'm going to get fade that out quite a lot. So I'm getting a lot of greys and whites in here. And then on this side, actually no. New layer. Really pump that up. Then I'm just going to grab a really harsh brush and just do something until I'm happy with it. So not with it. Alright, done all right, so I'll get rid of that. Try on this side. so just trying to get something looking nice. What's going on with the glass? Just going to build it up in a series of layers of white, basically. And for contrast purposes, I'm going to do some black. Up. Soft erase, just erase that gently. Back on the white, I think. Just use the marker there and just put some streaks in it or something. Now I need some kind of roof detail on there, which I'm not really sure what's going to be yet. Not only is it a roof detail, it's also something to give structure to the door opening. But while I'm doing this I'm actually doing off the spot. I haven't actually designed this part of the car yet. So I'm thinking about the proportion between and the relationship between the V theme. Everything's got a V in it. So albeit this one's going in the opposite direction to the one in the back window. And it's got this cutout and I'm kind of mirroring it. I'm going around about what looks good on the top of the car. Something more about there, ain't bad. But it's also not going to be a solid roof, it's going to be more under the glass. So it's going to be quite faded out, I think. And there's going to be a rear window in it, so it's going to have some kind of opening in here. So underneath the glass, I'm going to see something. I'm thinking about something like this. And it's looking quite nice. And in reality, it bends down underneath there, so this isn't a bend here. So I'm going to just leave that quite suggestive from that side. And erase that bit there, I don't want that. Something like that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a black that in. Turn it down. Side. Looks a bit weak. Because it's quite suggestive and I don't really know what I'm doing with the other side. I'm just going to fade that out. Yeah, something like that. Where's that line gone? That can go. Just going to come in and tidy this up in here. And a blemish there. Turn that up. Looking at that, I'm not really keen on that. Scrap that. Do it again. It looked a bit weak and flimsy. Portions of it were just didn't look right. So something more like that. Probably, yeah, it's better. I'll probably put some detail in there. Maybe tip surface or something. And there'll be some kind of thickness to it as well, so it'll be yeah, that's better. Start again. Again, same principle, I'm going to soften that edge. Turn that down a bit. Use a grain here. Multiply that. Soften that edge off. I could sit there all day long going over that actually, because that is undecided as to what I'm going to do with that. Yes, I don't know. You get the idea. Anyway, I suppose the best did Wells actually. Basically grab an ellipse tool and match it to the perimeter of the actual body. about right. Take that up a bit. And get a harsher razor. And erase what I don't want. Oops. Fade that out. Says wheel 01. That's still not quite right. Right, anyway. I could sit there and mess around with that for quite a while and get that right, but for the purpose of this, get the ellipse tool back up. And I'm just going to do some real suggestive spokes because I haven't actually designed them. So I've done a few, just haven't picked one. Then I'm going to just get a grey, and on the new layer, just on the ones you can see. And you can get a small brush and just erase what you wouldn't see. This is where your artistic license comes in, just make them look cool. That's all you got to do. And then just get a soft eraser and just move out. And then I'm just going to tighten up the top of those again with the white. So Cheeky red. Actually, on a new layer, don't I? Yeah, something there. And soften that out. I'm going to do a new layer. Same thing, almost. This is just your artistic license comes in there, just make it look cool. And then just to finish that off, I'm going to put a grey with the airbrush. And just freehand that in there. A soft eraser. Take all that out. A harsh eraser. And then what I'm going to do now, I'm going to flatten that on the wheels anyway. So all the way down to layer 75, I'm just going to flatten. So if I turn that off now, that will disappear, yep. Then what I'm going to do is duplicate that layer, use V, move it, scale it, rotate it slightly, non-proportional, scale it. And undo that. Just want to rotate that way. And Alright, now on top of all of this, on the very top layer, I'm going to get white, big airbrush, nice and big. I'm just going to airbrush gently over the top of all this. Slightly over this top wing here. And across the top of the windscreen as well. Fade that out. And tie it down a little bit. Then underneath that layer I just created, I'm going to pick a colour. What colour to go for? Probably going to go with the icy bluey sort of colour. Like an icy grey maybe. I'm just going to apply some colour to the bodywork. I'm not going to do it everywhere because I want the design to come through. Now I've done that, I'm going to change that to multiply. Screen comes out quite bright. We'll go with the screen and just turn that down. I can't lose it now. Add a bit more blue. Just get rid of all that. Oops. It's because I'm getting lazy now. Undo. I'm just thinking, should I leave it over the tyres or not? Oh, choices. What's it like without? Yeah, I think I'll go with that. I'm just going to do a separate bit on the actual spokes down here. Bit of bounce light. Then I'm going to get a white pencil. And I'm just going to add in some highlights. I'm going to keep these quite loose because I tend to do it loose, and you could do it tight if you wanted to. do, I'm going to just fade them right down. Bit of airbrushing. Fade them a little bit more. Some white airbrush. And really fade that out. Now I'm going to come back down to the first layer I did. Bring that up a bit. I'll really pump all that up then. No, maybe too much. Bring up the ground shadow. Pump that up. And just play around with it and just have fun. And you'll find something at some point where you really like it. I might tone down the white layer, bring that back end back into it, and then bring out the bright light in this back end. So I'll block in that and then get an airbrush and block in a glow. Put some splashes of light. And then I'll probably put a bit more on the top. And then on that bottom layer, I'm just going to erase all this back end. Because I'm picking too much of that up through the rest of this stuff, I think. I don't know. Down a bit. Up, back a bit. Yeah, I mean, just play with it, just see what happens. yeah, just keep playing with it, and I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching.